This is a 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe Calligraphy, the Bold. 5th generation mid-size crossover SUV from the Korean brand that is new for this model year. It's also bigger in every dimension and a standard 3-row SUV. This Santa Fe Calligraphy is the top of several trims above the SE, SEL, all-wheel drive only XRT, and limited trims. And that means there's quite a lot of luxury in here, in addition to that bold styling. But does it drive as well as it looks? Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. The base price for a front-wheel drive Hyundai Santa Fe SE is $35,345. If you want to add all-wheel drive, that will cost an additional $1,800. If you get an all-wheel drive top-of-the-line Calligraphy trim, that's going to cost you $49,695. And my test car did include an optional paint and carpeted floor mats and cost $50,905. Okay, with that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. Looking at the front of the Santa Fe, I see a lot of Land Rover Defender in this design, but I do also see H's. There is an H built into the headlight here and obviously on the other side. And then there's this long crossbeam that kind of makes itself a super wide H. And the hood itself is actually quite interesting in its simplicity. It's got this one little ridge in the center, and it does angle down a little bit to get to the front, which is very vertical. But otherwise, it's a pretty square, pretty flat piece of sheet metal. But I'd still rather show you what's underneath it. Well, there it is, your turbocharged 2.5-liter 4-cylinder, transversely mounted or side to side like that. The center of the front axle is right around here, right about at this hose clamp here. So much of the engine is ahead of the front axle center line. This is going to be a front heavy machine, but it is all-wheel drive, so that will help a tiny bit, but still a little bit better chassis balance would have been nice. Windshield washer fluid is right up front right here. Super easy to get to. Looking at the Santa Fe in profile, I'm going to get a little bit more specific and say that this looks kind of Defender 130-ish to me, maybe 110, but it definitely has that very boxy, squared off shape, and it is a really nice design. This particular car is painted in earthy brass matte paint, which is a $1,000 optional color, and it is one of 2 options on my test car, and certainly the more expensive of the 2. And it's a really good color. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen right now for you to check out, and let you know I have a lot more information in the description. You can get up to 21-inch wheels on your Hyundai Santa Fe. This being a Calligraphy, it has those big wheels. It's fairly normal looking on the car. I think the design and the wheel all works, but it's just kind of a shocking number to say. So the base wheel is 18 inches. That's a little bit more where I expected, but then you can get up to 20s and even 21s if you get this top trim Calligraphy Santa Fe. And yes, it is a square setup. You get the same wheel and tire in back as you do in front. Looking at the car from the rear, in many ways, this is both the simplest and the boldest part of the redesign of the Santa Fe. This is a straight shot down. You've got very little tilt even in the rear windshield glass. This is almost purely vertical. You do have a fairly big show-offy kind of tailpipe, but it is real, and it is just a single tailpipe. I actually think it works really well with the rest of this design. And this tailgate is also physically bigger than the 4th generation Santa Fe, meaning it's wider and easier access to the inside. Let's check it out. And there it is, a nearly 6-inch wider opening than the outgoing Santa Fe, which certainly is welcome. And because I already have the 3rd row folded flat, you see 41 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. You also have a little bit more storage under the floor right here. That's your jack right here, and then just a nice cubby right here. The third row sits nice and flat, as you can see, but putting them up is really easy. Straps right here, put them on, fold up the headrest, and with them both up, you're down to 15 cubic feet of storage. Pull on this strap, the headrest automatically folds, and it comes down on its own, and then we're back to 41 cubic feet of storage and room for 4. But it's super easy to go even farther because this nice top trim also has these 2 buttons right here to automatically fold the second row down. One touch of the button and they both do this articulation as they fold flat to give you 80 cubic feet of storage and room for you and a passenger, and I think plenty of room for my bike, but let's find out. The loading floor is a little higher than ideal, but plenty wide. Oh yeah, plenty of room. No problem at all. My bike slid right in. All right, let's check out the inside. Before I go inside, I actually want to show you a neat trick that Hyundai added to the 5th generation Santa Fe, and that is this little lever right here. This opens up a handle for you to grab onto to make it really easy to use the rear tire as a step to the roof rack. If you don't want others to be able to access this little handhold, that's actually easy to do. Key, there's a little lock right here. Twist that. We do have this nice 2-tone interior. We have nice beige seats, even an off-white you could say, and this green part of the trim here and the leather here. Access to the third row is super easy with this button right here. It is 2 seats in the third row, and it wouldn't be too terrible, but you can see we're only about 8 inches, maybe 10 inches from the floor here, so this is definitely just for kids. We have electric controls right here for the tilt of the seat bottom, obviously the angle of the seat back, and as you can see, the seat front articulates with the seat back, but you can also do fore aft manually down here. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I have plenty of knee room, at least 6 inches I would say. I also have a nice high seat bottom, so plenty of thigh support. Even with the moonroofs, I do have a couple inches of headroom and a less than 90-degree bend in my knees. We do have second row USB Type-C ports as well in the back of the first row seats. On limited and higher trims, you also get seat heaters for the second row, manual sunshades too. Because this is a calligraphy, I have Napa leather seating. That's what this seating surface is, and it is lovely, of course. And here's a great view of my only other option, $210 for carpeted floor mats. Here's another look at that 2-tone color scheme for the interior, as well as the usual controls on the door. You also get 2-position seat memory right there, and plenty of space down low as well. Because this is a calligraphy, we have lots of controls on the seats, including what Hyundai calls the relaxation comfort seat. First, I'll start the car and press this button right here, and it automatically leans forward, leans the seat back, and lifts a leg rest right here. So you have this lounge mode for the front seats if you're not driving and you just want to relax. Limited and calligraphy trim Santa Fe's also do get a 12-speaker Bose stereo, and we also get a fair amount of controls to the left of the steering wheel, including traction control off, another way to open the tailgate, and your electric park brake right there. You can tilt and telescope the steering. It's manually done with this lever right here. The steering wheel itself is a reasonably thick rim, and it is also that 2-tone color scheme, and you do have plenty of controls on the right and on the left. This is mainly cruise control, mainly media. We do also have paddle shifters, upshift on the right, downshift on the left. Our Prindle is on the steering wheel. It's right here. You push this button for park, you go clockwise for drive, counterclockwise for reverse, small tap to get it to neutral. We also have a 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster right next to another 12.3-inch center display, And the two are combined together to be a panoramic curved display. Because this is a calligraphy trim, we also have a head-up display right there. And while the digital instrument cluster is only the limited trims and up, it's a 4-inch screen otherwise, the 12.3-inch screen is standard equipment and does include wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto as well. Beneath that, we do have our dual zone climate control and a bunch of other controls for media and that kind of stuff. We also have heated and ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel. The heated seats are on SEL and up trim Santa Fe's. The ventilated seats is limited and up, and that's true for the heated steering wheel as well. And since we're talking about limited and calligraphy, the wipers are rain sensing on the limited and calligraphy trims as well. We have 2 wireless smartphone charging ports right here, as well as 2 more USB Type-C ports right there. That's just in front of 2 nice big cup holders and lower center console storage as well. And that does include its own little light right there. Looking up, we do have a digital rear view mirror. So if you want, turn this toggle and it becomes a screen for that rear camera. And we have options that you can see right there. Look up even higher. This is an eco suede material on the headliner, and that is a calligraphy only option. Now this front moonroof does have a manual privacy panel right there, but the buttons to open the front and rear are right here. Lovely. All right, let's talk drive modes. We have this switch right here, and we have 4 drive modes: normal, sport, my drive, and snow. And to adjust my drive, you can go to the center display, hit settings right here, and you can see that we can choose between normal, sport, and smart, which is like an adaptive powertrain setting, and normal and heavy steering. We will play around with these different drive modes, but to do that, we should get back to the drive. So let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does 277 horsepower and 311 pound-feet of torque come from? Well, as you saw, it is a turbocharged 2.5-liter 4-cylinder engine, and it is now the standard engine in the Santa Fe lineup. Being turbocharged, the peak torque comes at just 1,700 RPM, and it will hold that figure all the way through 4,000 RPM. Your 277 horsepower, that arrives at 5,800 RPM. In the outgoing Santa Fe, there were 3 engines in total, and this turbocharged 2.5-liter was the top engine in the lineup. Now this is the standard engine, and the optional engine is the hybrid. That is a turbocharged 1.6-liter hybrid. It gets a grand total of 231 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque. Regardless of engine choice, you can choose an either front or all-wheel drive Santa Fe, unless you get the XRT trim. That is all-wheel drive only, and that is also lifted more than an inch compared to the other trims. It's meant to be more off-road friendly. But if you get the hybrid, you get an automatic transmission. This turbocharged 2.5-liter, on the other hand, gets an 8-speed dual clutch transmission. That's right, no automatic here. And you can feel it. Once you're moving, it's totally fine, totally smooth, nice and fast shifts, etc., etc. But getting going from a stop is noticeably less smooth than a torque converter automatic, and that's especially true if you're trying to just inch forward or backward in small, tight spaces. And you get these little uneven bursts of power, you know what I mean? Dual clutch transmissions tend to be able to shift just a little bit faster than automatics, and they have slightly sportier responses generally. But in this category of car, I just don't think it quite fits, to be honest. But when you combine it with good power from the turbocharged 2.5-liter and all-wheel drive, you definitely get plenty of punch. If I floor the accelerator, yeah, that's good kick down and pretty darn good pull right off the bat. And that's an advantage of a dual clutch transmission. The kick down can be a little bit faster, a little bit more direct than a torque converter transmission generally. And that was in the normal driving mode. If I shift it to sport and hit the throttle again, yeah, we get good kick down and pretty good punch pretty quickly, actually. And it's actually pretty smooth. Even though we're in the sport driving mode, we kind of get transitioned into the lower gears. You can tell that there's a bit of clutch slip going on as it makes that transition, but you get this like nice ramp up of acceleration as you go. It's pretty nice. And once you get full throttle, you get a healthy amount of throttle. And there is another way to even be more direct. We do have the paddle shifters, of course, so I can just manually put it in a lower gear. and accelerate again. Yeah, and then we get punched right away. And it will upshift on its own, which is pretty common these days. Now, this certainly isn't overwhelming power, but it is a healthy amount of power for something that is now more than 190 inches long and quite tall and boxy. That's good acceleration. I'm pleasantly surprised at what this Hyundai Santa Fe can do in terms of getting moving. Now, we do also have a smart driving mode, which is basically in between normal and sport driving mode. More than anything, it's adaptive. It kind of learns your own driving behavior and it tries to respond in kind. And then we also, of course, have the snow driving mode, which, you know, is going to be just different for inclement weather, that kind of thing. And considering the healthy dose of horsepower we do also get, you know, pretty good fuel economy. You get 20 miles to the gallon in the city, 28 miles to the gallon on the highway, 23 combined. Now, it is a little bit better if you get the front wheel drive model, and of course, it is a healthy amount better if you go with the hybrid. Obviously, there is a power penalty if you go with the hybrid. But while fuel economy is certainly an important thing, it isn't as much fun as accelerating. Of course, I had to test that. Let me show you right now. All right, everybody, time for an acceleration test in this turbocharged 2.5 liter Santa Fe. I do have it in the sport driving mode and I do have the traction control off, but with all-wheel drive, I don't think I'll need that. Well, let's find out. Okay, coming to a complete stop. Foot hard on the brake, bit of brake torque. About 1700 RPM off the brake. Nope. Okay. There we go. There we go. That's not bad. Yeah, not bad at all. Okay. Okay. Pretty reasonable acceleration from this turbocharged 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, 8-speed dual clutch transmission, sending power to all 4 wheels. It was a soft launch, but once we got moving, it was perfectly brisk. No hesitation, good quick shifts, although not that fast as shifts considering it's a dual clutch. And all told, it would have no problem getting you around. Perfectly reasonable acceleration. All right, let's dig into the chassis. This is a crossover SUV, so it is a unit construction setup, and it is 4-wheel independent. We have struts up front and a multi-link setup in back, pretty typical these days. And it does feel like a nice, solid structure that has reasonable compromise between ride and handling, though I have to say, in a lot of circumstances, it is actually a little stiffer than I expected. On a nice smooth road like this, it's plenty compliant. But if the going gets a little bumpy, it can be a touch jarring at times. On the plus side, if you go to the sport driving mode, the steering wheel does noticeably stiffen up, so you have a nice weighty steering wheel to work with, and that does make it easier to get precise with the steering, and I do like that. But then again, the compliance in the brakes, how squishy the brake pedal feels, is higher than I expected. There's more pedal travel before you really get good deceleration. It's easy to moderate, easy to feel, and in normal driving, it's perfectly fine. But if you want to give heavy applies, you're going to find your foot traveling down that pedal closer to the firewall floor than is completely comfortable, I have to be honest. All that said, you definitely do look good while driving in this SUV. It's definitely got distinctive styling, and it does have a lot of comforts, and it's got better cabin isolation than I expected. That's true on roads like this and the interstate. I did test it there as well. Let me show you that. All right, everybody, time for a quick stint on the interstate to see how this Santa Fe feels on the open road. I do, of course, have tons of driving aids. I'll go ahead and put those up on the screen right now. Of those, of course, we do have highway driving assist, so we'll be sure to give that a try. Okay, cruise control is set at 78 miles an hour to go with traffic. At that speed, the engine is spinning at 1900 RPM and is definitely in the background. And because I have the head-up display, I have a driver assist view on the digital instrument cluster and on the head-up display. And we're going through a curve right now, so I will go ahead and take my hands off the wheel. And yeah, staying pretty well center in the lane. Yeah, tracking nicely. It's not as good as highway tracing assist from Toyota, but it is close. And it is also showing me 3 lanes worth of traffic on the road. So we have a nice extensive view of what it sees on the highway, not just what I see on the highway. And actually, let me show that to you real quick. As you can see, we've got plenty of traffic up ahead and someone coming to the left of us as well. So it's nice to see a pretty detailed view on the screen of what the car sees. More fundamentally, I'm actually pleasantly surprised at the cabin isolation. We've got good road noise isolation and really good wind noise isolation as well. So in a lot of ways, this is quieter than I expected. This is on the high end of mainstream SUVs in that regard. The ride, on the other hand, is a little bit on the rough side. It's a little bit stiff, a little bit bumpy, a little bit bouncy. This is, like on the other roads, just a tiny touch stiffer than I think it should be for this category of SUV, this mainstream family SUV. But if the slightly stiff ride doesn't bother you, this is a fantastic highway cruiser. So, what do I think of this brand new 5th generation boxy and bold 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe? There's a lot to like here. I respect and applaud the fact that Hyundai went as bold as they did with the styling. The outgoing Santa Fe looked perfectly reasonable, blended in with the rest of the mainstream SUV lineup just fine, and functioned just as an SUV should. There was nothing wrong with it. But with this one, this is a way to stand out. This is a way to look just a little bit more hip and stylish, if you will. Or maybe another way to look at it is it's a much less expensive way to get a Land Rover Defender. I am a little bit bummed out, however, at the refinement level of this Santa Fe. I've really been impressed with what Hyundai's been able to do with the latest Elantra and Sonata to really bring the refinement levels right there with the best of what's out there. The Elantra is quiet and smooth and great. The Sonata is a slightly bigger version of the exact same thing, and the Sonata particularly looks really good as well. This one has the looks, has the content, the luxury and all that, but the driving feel isn't as good as, say, a Honda CR-V. But I think, and I think a lot of people would agree, it does look better, and you do get quite a lot for your money. I mean, this relaxation comfort seat, that's a really cool feature. All the different ways the second row can fold and move around, the access to this compartment by the second row and first row, first and second row heated seats, the manual sunshades, the panoramic view displays with the digital instrument cluster and the center display, USB Type-C ports galore. There is a lot in here to keep everyone in this car charged up and happy. So you get a lot for your money here, especially if you need a place to relax every now and again. I'm Robin Warner. Thank you very much for watching.